Carry on.
Yeah. On behalf of our President, Mr. Rajesh Sharma, our Executive Committee and Bombay Management Association, I welcome you all for the next edition of Friday Fundamentals. So BMA organizes this session every Friday, and we invite experts and professionals, senior industry professionals from who have expertise and who come and share their knowledge, their experience with our members, with our non-members. And see, these sessions are complimentary, they are free, but the knowledge is priceless, as I always say. Today's theme is about using the tool of speech wisely and with purpose. And for that, we have invited Mr. Ravi Eppaturi. Now, before I give his introduction, I'd like to share with you that my association with Ravi goes back maybe 10 or 12 years back. And I had just joined Computer Society of India as a member. It's another industry association for IT professionals. And Ravi was a part of the executive committee member. And one day he just called, he said, "Supriya, you want to make a difference? Do you want to do something different? Come join us." And that's how we got started. Ravi and I, we did a lot of good things together as volunteers with CSI. Eventually, he became the president, and under his leadership, as the chairman of Computer Society of India, again, we did a lot of great events and conferences. So from my experience, I can say that Ravi is a very dynamic person. He has a contagious enthusiasm, and he's a very good speaker. In fact, he speaks in technology events, and he's a panelist also in tech conferences. As a professional, Ravi has around, I think, more than 30 years of experience, global experience, and he has worked in different sectors like healthcare, education, FMCG, government, energy, EPC, and so on. Currently, he's the CTO of LinkBiz. It's a specialized global sales startup. And he also evangelizes emerging technologies in India across private and public organizations. Ravi is, as I mentioned, the past chairman of Computer Society of India, and he's also the board member of Lions Club of Bombay Willingdon Crescent. So I welcome you, Ravi, on behalf of everyone here, and over to you. I'm looking forward, we all are looking forward to an interesting session. And as I said, from my experience, I know you are a good speaker. You know how to motivate everyone. So over to you now.
Hey, Supriya, thank you very much for this warm welcome and your kind words. And it's good to always have, few people who you know in the audiences, right? And as they say, right, there are some plants. So if I can say that, you could be the plant amongst the audience out there, and I'm sure I'm going to make many new friends, right? And create some new fantastic relationships going forward. So it's definitely my pleasure being here with all of you today. And thank you to BMA for this opportunity really to speak to all your members and all your participants who are part of this fantastic Friday Fundamentals, your EMDP sessions that you've been doing so religiously. So I think, again, kudos to all you folks just for the cadence to organize these sessions. And what I've been hearing is just a very important aspect is this is just helping and raising the level of awareness and also striking a lot of engaging conversations, right, on all impactful topics. I mean, I was really envious of the other folks who were also going and speaking on topics which I've not heard of. So I'm like, I mean, there's definitely a reservoir for all of us to tap in and kind of really pick that up. And thank you again to the managing committee, right from the president and the whole committee who's out here, and allowing me to go ahead and share my thoughts and experience on this topic, the most powerful instrument of all. All right, so I think let's get started. And I think first, and then before I get going, I must definitely thank everybody who is on this call, who's joined. I think it's a tough act, right, to kind of be away from friends and family, especially when it is a Friday, right? But more important, I really appreciate all of you investing your time this is for your self-development as well as for networking. So that's getting started, right? And all I want to really start off by sharing something here is in terms of, I'm just like you, right? I mean, no different. I'm also a student of life and very curious to learn all new things, and more important, about all the gifts that are lying dormant within us. So that's something which I always like to look at. And in this quest to learn, I've been reading about Emperor Akbar. I'm sure you know about him and his Navratnas, right? So these are the 9 jewels. And Akbar, as we all know him, he's a connoisseur who always has pushed the boundaries on all his Navratnas. Now, coming to one of his popular Navratnas is Tansen, who was Akbar's favorite, well known for his expertise over the ragas. And I'm sure you would have heard this as well, right? I mean, if he sang an evening raga during the daytime, the sunlight would diminish and it would look like dusk already. So you can understand, if one is popular, everybody else is jealous, and you know what all happens. So, I mean, we're not going to go down that path, but very critical. I mean, that also helps, push the boundaries. And some of these folks went ahead and told Akbar that Tansen has got a unique ability to go ahead and light lamps with his voice. Now, to fulfill Akbar's wish, Tansen said, "Sir, give me some Jahapana." I will not get into that, but I would want to play a little video. But just before that, a little bit of a dialogue that would have happened. When you put on a daunting task, you always ask for some time, right? You don't just jump into that. And that's exactly what Tansen did. He said, "I need some time to prepare myself, because I also want to caution you about something. While I will go ahead and speak about this Deepak Raga, you also need to know that this raga has got an effect that with the heat that is generated, there is also a likelihood that in addition to the lamps, I can also get burnt." So with that caveat, he said, "I need some time." So rather than me getting into, telling you what happened, I think let us all witness a little clip that I managed to get out of a very popular movie. I'm sure many of you would relate to Baiju Bawra. If you have seen it, I managed to get a color copy of the same thing. And I'm just going to play this video for us to kind of understand what happened. So if you're all okay, and do tell me if I'm loud and clear at this point in time. You can all see my screen. I didn't do that health check, but now since it's Jahapana Akbar on the screen, I think all of us need to also pay a little more attention to what he says. And here is what he had to say.
हैं आप मियां तानसेन, जो आपने ऐसे शोहरतमंद आलिम फाजिल उस्ताद की शागिर्दी की और ऐसी बेहतरीन मौसीकी और गायकी की तालीम ली। इंशाअल्लाह परवरदिगार की ऐसी खूबसूरत सरजमी पर आपकी शोहरत हमेशा बुलंद रहेगी। आमीन। एक राग दीपक होता है और सुना है कि जब उसको गाया जाता है तो आंधियों में भी चिराग जल उठते हैं और आग भी लग जाती है।
आपने बिल्कुल सही सुना है महाराज।
क्या आप ऐसे राग को जानते हैं?
जी महाराज।
हम उस राग को सुनना चाहते हैं। क्या हमारी फरमाइश पूरी नहीं होगी?
जरूर होगी जहांपना। बहरहाल महाराज, मुझे राग दीपक गाने के लिए कुछ समय दिया जाए।
जैसी आपकी मर्जी। आज की महफिल यहीं बर्खास्त की जाती है।
मेरे मित्र, इस तरह निराश होने से कुछ नहीं होगा। हाँ बीरबल, महाराज की इच्छा तो पूरी करनी ही पड़ेगी। खुश, और इसके लिए मां सरस्वती आपकी रक्षा करेगी।
बाबा, आप चिंतित होकर क्यों बैठे हैं? आइए, खाना खाइए।
हाँ बेटी, मेरी चिंता का विषय है राग दीपक, जिसे सम्राट ने सुनने की इच्छा व्यक्त की है।
परंतु बाबा, उससे तो
हाँ बेटी, उसको गाने से तो चारों तरफ आग लग सकती है, प्राण हानि हो सकती है, और ऐसे होगा भी, क्योंकि राग दीपक को बीच में नहीं छोड़ा जा सकता। परंतु सम्राट को तो इसका जरा भी भान नहीं है।
बाबा, आप निश्चिंत होकर भोजन कीजिए। माँ सरस्वती इसका कोई ना कोई उपाय जरूर निकालेंगी।
शायद माँ सरस्वती की यही इच्छा हो।
आप भोजन क्यों नहीं कर रहे बाबा?
हाँ बेटी, मेरी इच्छा नहीं है, मेरे हाथ तुड़वा दो।
बाबा, एक उपाय है। जब दरबार में आप राग दीपक गाएंगे और उससे ताप बढ़ जाएगा, तो हम दोनों बहनें यहाँ से राग मियाँ मल्हार गाएंगे। उससे वर्षा होगी और राग दीपक की गर्मी नष्ट हो जाएगी। हाँ बाबा।
देखेंगे माँ सरस्वती की क्या इच्छा है।
हमने सब तैयारियां पूरी कर रखी है। आज दरबार में हमारी ख्वाहिश पूरी की जाएगी।
अवश्य महाराज, परंतु इसमें अग्नि भी लग सकती है।
वही तो हम भी देखना चाहेंगे।
जो आज्ञा महाराज।
इरशाद।
दीपक कन करत, दीपक कन करत, राग लक्षण ग्रंथ मेल कामवर धनि दीन हस्त जात गत दीपक
So what do you think was that? Firstly, is this possible? Is this real? I think this is magic. This is magic, right? Everybody has got access to the same ragas, right? It is just how each one uses that voice and ensures that the voice matters. It's a lot of practice that he's done, which has resulted in what you got. Now, here is an example as I started off by talking to you about gifts, right? I think each one of us can use our own voices to get gifts from inside of each one of us out. Because nothing happens in this world until someone gives it voice, either while speaking, by writing, or by singing. So wherever you are in your life story, now is the time for you to bring your gifts to this world. As you would have noticed, that voice is the most important part of our creation. It is a perfect, powerful, and beautiful gift which has been given to mankind by God. And the early cavemen who really started realizing that they have been bestowed with this gift started listening into all kinds of voices, right? They heard voices of birds, animals. They created their own calls. They figured out their own ways and means of kind of creating their own, of communicating, and eventually build up their own language. Now, as we saw again, and which we all experience as well, that voice makes a very strong impact on our minds, because a voice, like each one of us, has our own signature. So your voice is your signature when you go out and communicate with anybody. So when you're talking about voice, I think let's kind of quickly define what voice is. So voice is a versatile oral instrument to communicate and express. It is so expressive that you know it from the inside of what things really are coming out, right? And looking at voice, I think when you're looking at voice and vocation, I think they are so common that what we're really starting to see is voice and vocation. And in Latin, if you really go back and start looking at the meaning, it is to call or to invoke or to go ahead and name. That's what voice is. We all know that every voice makes an impact. Therefore, each one of us needs to work on our own voice. Because if you keep talking in a monotonous tone for a longer period of time, you will know that your audience, and you'll know why your audience goes to sleep, right? And there's because there is no impact that you really have. But if you have to be heard, you have to work on your voice. And we all experience that every day. So the more feeble that you go out and talk to people in a crowd, if you're not getting any attention, the moment you raise your voice, you definitely have heads turning and people start paying attention to you very clearly. Did you know that your voice is telling all your secrets? Research has gone ahead and shown that the sound of your voice alone, okay, reveals a lot of information about you. And that could be anything. I mean, there are various studies which could talk about your mood, which talks about your state of health, which could talk about your physical size. And we also starting to understand something. And then I think the cliche that really goes, right, that we talk about is in terms of why communication breaks down. And I think communications breaks down even in the most well-intentioned people is not about what you say. It is about how you say what you say. Because unconsciously, all of us carry a lot of vocal habits that interfere us from doing our best. Hence, voice matters. And your voice is a very, very powerful communication tool. Somewhere in the 1970s at Stanford, there was a study that was done. And what they really wanted to figure out in terms of and prove out there is, as we said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So they really tried to prove that in terms of, as you speak, what makes you believe that whatever things that I say. So the question is in terms of, is your recipient understanding and getting the intent of what you're saying? Are you clear in kind of getting your message across? And the results said that the words that you use only count for 7% of whether or not anybody believes anything of whatever you say. It is then the tonality of the voice, the sounds that you make, aside from the pitch, the pace, the tone, the melody, right, of the voice, which and the volume, which basically accounts for some 38% of the communication. And they've also believed that the physiology of what you do with your hands, your legs, your eyes, your face, the way you basically go out and smile, that accounted for something like 55%. That's your body language. Now, this has been going on for a long time. It has also been accepted. The study has been used by many people over a point to go out and highlight. But I think wisdom also prevails. And over the years, we have seen that the experts have realized that this is still not true. Because if you really start seeing, by around 2017, there's a study which was done by some of the researchers at Yale and Harvard. They said, you can well forget about your physiology. That is because even your expressions can just lie, right? We have gotten so good at lying that you really can be miserable on any given day, and you still put on a smile, and people who look at you may think that you're still very happy, right? On that. So physiology isn't really truthful. And then they also found out something out there, and that was that we all gotten good at lying and stretching the truth with our words. So if your expressions and your physiology are not truthful, then what are you really left with? You're really left with the sounds that you really hear. So it is very important that you really got to focus on the sound. So the sound is the only thing that really gets you to believe what the other person is saying. So many people out there, I think all of us experience this as one form or the other. So many people out there, they think they didn't get something. Why? Like experiences like you get turned down for a particular job, or if say, you're trying to do an elevator pitch, you don't make it. And or if somebody says, I'm not going to go out with you tomorrow, if you kind of hear such negations, it is not because you've said anything wrong, but to know, I think what science also has gone ahead and proved, it is because you sounded the wrong way. I think sounds are very, very important. I think all of us know and have our way with words, right? So words, and we all know plenty of words. I think that's a rich vocabulary that we have kind of built over the years. And then we also are good about ourselves. We also know our subject very well. We know our products. We know our industry. It's just that, how do you make an impact? I mean, if that's a question that's bothering you, I think we really need to start looking at and learn what are the sounds which will get people to move and start taking action. All right, so moving on sounds, right? I think all of us have figured out words. We figured out what is the importance of words. But over the years, all of us have figured out something very important, is the sense of spontaneous sounds. Now, they also call these as wordless vocalizations, right? To express anything, it's the feelings, right? The feelings could be from elation to embarrassment. So all our oops and woes that we really have, right? Now, coming to the point, there has been a study, a very interesting study, which has taken place, and they have taken some 56 actors and non-actors from about 4 countries, including India. And they made them hear a lot of clips. They made them see different situations and scenarios. This is done by University of Berkeley. And what they really wanted to figure out in terms of how do each human kind of reacts. And the whole idea really was is in terms of, while all of us know that voice is a very powerful tool to go ahead and express emotions, the question then came up is in terms of how many emotions can you?
Sir, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The slide is not moving, when you
No,
are
I've not
talking.
moved the slide. Sir, I've not moved the slide. I'm still on the same slide. I'm getting to that right now. I'll show you something in a minute. Thank you for the cue though. So the whole idea really was in terms of how many different emotions, how many shades of relatable, recognizable emotions can you go ahead and identify? And at the end of that, the study, what they really figured out was there is close to some 24 different emotions which are recognized. Now, we will not get into all of these emotions, into details of all these emotions. But what these people at the university have managed to kind of do is they have gone and created a very smart, and I think it's a first of its kind, audio map, which basically going to talk to us about what are the different non-vocal communications, right? And I thought, let me kind of use this opportunity today to kind of show you this particular map out here. And this is very, very interesting for all of us to take a look at, right? And give me a minute to pull this up. Just bear with me for a minute. I'm gonna start sharing the screen again. I just got too many things up on the same screen right now. Okay, I have what is that? Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen, and if you want to figure out what is this, okay, tell me when you see my screen, folks. Yes, can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can you all see the screen?
Yes, it's been loaded.
Fantastic. All right, so I am just going to kind of go hide a few things out here. So here you are, folks. So that's all the 24 emotions which are mapped out there, and people were made to look at different videos, and we had people from practically almost every continent, one way or the other, got represented with to kind of figure out what it is all about. Now, as I move my pointer, as you see that out here, on across on any one of these little dots that you really start seeing, would you really start hearing more than anything else is what those sounds are. Now, because of the Zoom, there may be a little bit of a lag. So I'm trying to go ahead and do this a little slow out here, right? And I'm going to start with fear and go all the way up to confusion. And let me start doing that. And just for your information, if you really see this little wheel up here, which basically shows you the map in terms of how all the coordinates get impacted, or what are the different aspects that get impacted. So if you want to start with fear, just let me just get my pointer onto something here. Please. Okay, I've just taken my mouse, the pointer onto the side. But did you notice right up here, there were a lot of changes that happened? Correct? The heat map, the map started changing in here in terms of fear. So each one of us reacts in many, many different ways, and then with which you really start getting a lot of feedback. It kind of tells you what these sounds are. I think many people use a lot of these sounds to communicate. Many people may not use words, but these are the sounds which you really can interpret. Now, some of them are positive, some of them are negative. And then we will talk a little bit about these as we go along. So now from fear, I think that was too loud and scary. Let me see what could be the reactions when somebody is in for a surprise and which is negative. I'm moving up to a few. I can probably share this link for you folks to try this out on your own as well. Now, each one of us say wow in a different way. How do you figure this bit out? Now, okay, getting back to realization. Wait and pause for this to settle down.
Oh. Oh.
Coming down to, let's get to the interest levels. And if somebody is confused, so we all make a lot of such sounds, right? I mean, we don't realize this. It's just that your instant spontaneous reactions to things like that, right? Is even coming down to you starting to say, if there's interest, you hear many people saying, and that could be anything. You get that? Now, we won't spend time looking at each one of these. What they have kind of gone ahead and done is these guys have put some little gradients in here and starting to start seeing how different emotions, right? How they kind of relate, and you can start looking at in terms of how, if one progresses and start seeing how you really start getting impacted, right? In terms of when somebody is contented and you get some improvement in here, right? Now, when you start looking at somebody looking at fairness, or somebody who's like somebody is in A and starting to get surprised, you see confusion to interest. So there are a lot of gradients there, and what they have done is they've kind of boxed it. We kind of put this out and grouped all of these together in terms of various theories. Brilliant research, which basically talks about how different emotions and different sounds are basically being captured today. And for all the technically inclined folks that you've got, let me just share something very interesting. You have all these, you have series, you have all your ecos that you've got, right? Plus you have a lot of the digital assistants, any robotic devices that are really out there. How are they going about? All of them are going about because they use this map. They use this map to go ahead and track, right? They use this map to go ahead and quickly learn all the various emotions, which are human emotions. Since they learn this really, really quickly, you recognize them very, 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 very quickly out there. And these results really go and show that the emotional expressions that you saw out here, which eventually color our social interactions, right? And it really comes out and showcases our inner feelings, which are very difficult to fake, right? And our friends, co-workers, and loved ones really can rely and decipher when one is saying something which is true or not. So this is about sounds, and I think this is very critical that all of us also start understanding. Very important, I think, when you're looking at sounds, right? While you may have babies at home, or you see a lot of children at home, you see that bonding between an infant and a parent. What is all that about? I mean, they don't use any words. It's a lot of non-verbal communication that's really happening. And all of this basically is in terms of the sounds. And these are the signals which basically are picking up. I think that's how they're kind of building their bonds out there. And the other aspect of it is, while the bonding is happening from parents, but I think all of us also have that innate ability where we can very easily go ahead and notice the subtle differences between a surprise and an alarm, or when somebody is laughing, right? So whether he's an amused or he's an embarrassed laugh. I think these are aspects which we really start seeing. And this is how we can really look at in terms of how we are internally programmed to kind of look at that. And today we see a lot of machines. In fact, I have the opportunity to work with one of the startups, wherein what we end up doing is we can pick up any conversation and can start looking at and highlighting not only what are the emotions, we can also look at and grade these emotions out there, like what you just saw. And then if there's a conversation, let's say, for example, in a contact center between an agent and a customer, we really can go ahead and pinpoint listening to either the customer and or the agent to figure out who said what, or who said anything which really triggered out where the customer either has got irate. So whether the customer is speaking something otherwise, and or it is the agent who's saying something otherwise. So we've got so technology is really out there, and I think it's very, very critical that for all of us to figure out how we can now pick up our own voices and then take and kind of use that voice very, very clearly. And very important, it's for us to also do a lot of listening. I think if we listen into not only how we speak, and today we have the fortune of having these smartphones, and each of these smartphones have a recording facility. I reckon, and I urge all of you to do something, is maybe tonight, if you want to kind of pick up a little text or just speak something and record your own voice, okay, and play that to yourself. Ask yourself an honest question: how do I sound? Do I want to change my voice? So then the next question is in terms of how do you end up really changing your voice? So question is, if you like your voice, fantastic. And I think what people really end up doing is once they have heard their voice, today many people have got onto the journey to see how they can go ahead and improve their voices. But for many, I think it's just they continue to go on as is. Because what is critical and which makes a difference for anyone is in terms of when you're saying something, there is some sort of a frequency which is really going on out there. And does that elicit some sort of a physical reaction? The best example for this is when a baby cries. Do you react? So what do you notice out there? What is the frequency when that baby kind of cries out there? So nobody has taught that baby to do anything, right? But however, the baby knows how it's not about a different tone or whatever it is. They have a way, it's the frequency with which they go about. It is just about how they use their voices, right? To use their voice and make those sounds, which will get a reaction. So today, again, in communication, if we want all of us to get reaction, so how do you get that reaction going? Now, this is about sound. So I thought let me, I mean, knowing that it's Friday, I thought let me also kind of quickly change the mood here and get all of us to look at and listen into a lighter conversation. Just again for saying this, the lighter conversation was more so in terms of how does it happen. So I got a little video to play for all of you folks in here. Tell me when you can see my screen, and I'm playing a little video. I love this video, and you will know why I love this video. So I'm just going to play this for you. This is about what you can do with your voice, right? And this is, we'll discuss it once you. All right, so let's get some reactions from all of you. What did we just see and listen to? Let's open up the floor, have all of you speak now. Supriya?
Yeah, so clearly the whole perception changes how you speak, how the sound is, the sound of your voice. It just impacts the perception.
You need to have the husk.
Yeah.
You need to have the husk. Can we have somebody speak up, please? Anyone else? Mohammad Rehan, you want to say something? Bhaskar, Rashmi, Deepak. Now this one is all on you folks now. Ravindra Reddy, thank you for being the first one who joined in.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. I'm Rashmi Sharma speaking here. It was really very, very interesting. whatever you shared, and I didn't know about it. So I'm really little bit scared as well. You will be, all. Um, you may choose my voice for all that kind of analysis. What I'm saying, how I'm saying. So, yeah. But it was really interesting. I, couldn't move and keep my eyes away from the screen or your, so total concentrated on this. This happens not normally. It doesn't happen, but yeah, it was so interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, BMA.
No, no, okay, folks, I am not done. This is just about Obama and Mandela over there. The whole idea really was in terms of driving home a very, very important point. The point what I was driving home is all of us know our voices. What can you do to project your voice? Could you feel the impact? Could you feel you're just watching a video? Could you feel some sensation going along in you? Right? So when we have some of our leaders, or we have some of our, by the way, some singers, right? They get on stage, they can have you crying when they sing. But the next song, you will be ready up on your feet, dancing, shaking your hands, and having a gala time. How do they do that? It's all they use is the voice, right? So which is they are connecting with you. Now, this is the whole point that all of us need to really start looking at in terms of how can you connect? How could you reach out? I think from all what you've seen and heard, and you would agree here, that both these gentlemen had very, very powerful physical voices, an incredible command, right, over their own voices. And more important is they had the content. Yes, we can. I think that's very powerful, right? So we have all heard about Martin Luther King, right? I have a dream. I can imagine them speaking in a very feeble voice. I have a dream versus him projecting his voice, where you had more than 200,000 plus people who are listening out, right? And imagine many of us get the opportunity to get in front of an audience and you do not have a microphone working at that point in time. What will you do? Now, I didn't want to get into any modulation out here because Trevor did a fantastic job on that video, right? You can't beat somebody better than him to go home and drive a message. It took me some time to find which will be an apt video, which will help all of us learn some basic things of what you can do to improve our own voices. And I think the first important thing that you all can note is listen to yourself, and more important, focus on how you sound. Then you can work on yourself because you have these beautiful smartphones with a very smart, intuitive, and a free recorder, which will help you capture the intensity, the volume, and the tone of your voice. So I urge all of you. Now, first I thought when I would start the session is, then I really thought I should not do this. I was going to get all of you to pull out your cell phones, record a few things, and then we would probably at the end of the session have you guys re-record a few things again, and then you hear how you sound different. I would have loved to do that, and the next time whenever we get a chance to be together in person, I will definitely do that. So this is a heads up to all of you, right? And I kind of do this quite a bit as well, right? So but here you are, folks. I think very important is, first is how do you sound? I think if you can adjust the intensity of how you sound, you start seeing the impact. And the moment you kind of do that, and another aspect of it is this spacing of how you speak, right? I mean, you had people who speak so fast, correct? Or people who speak so slow. We also had our great Prime Minister who has had an habit of pausing for a very long time. And people thought he would go out and sleep, right? Put everybody to sleep. It's about how you space. How do you add that silence? You got to feel it. You need to add a silent pause to drive home an important message. How do you do that, folks? I think it's very critical. And I think where you got to start varying your speed at which you speak, the pattern that you basically folks using, and there's no better judge than yourself, right? It's like looking yourself in the mirror. How beautiful am I today? Correct? And you notice the difference the moment you change your voice, your family, your friends, and everybody will notice, wow, there is a difference. Something has changed, right? You could do whatever, but this is what you need to do. But also important, I think you also need to focus on your subject. I think what is the message, what is the content and the context that you want to go ahead and deliver. But I'll tell you what, the most important thing you could do all of these things is just be yourself. Correct? There is nothing more authentic than yourself, right? Get yourself, the authentic self, in front of everybody. And that is what makes a change, right? Now, before we kind of, I know keeping an eye on the clock, a little challenge, right? I don't want to kind of throw all of you to do this bit right now, but a very interesting one. I want all of you to just for a minute pause and think you are an entrepreneur. And if you are, great, right? If you are an entrepreneur and you, oh my gosh, I need that $10 million to take my startup to the next level. So just for a minute, think that you are a what? An entrepreneur who needs to raise $10 million. Okay. Are we all okay so far? Show a thumbs up. And I know that all of you guys are there, right? Listening and ready for this challenge. Okay. All right. So I think that we are good to go. So let's go on. Right? Situation is, there is some conference going on. You're crazy to go out and raise that $10 million. And then you look across the lobby, you find that one VC who you wanting to meet because you believe that that person will give you that money. Okay. So you kind of walk up to that person and hi, hello. He says, yeah, okay. What do you want to say? Say fast because I'm going up to the 5th floor. So you say, you want to ride with me? It's okay. So that comes your elevator pitch. Okay. You both get into the lift. You got how many floors and how many seconds is till the time he reaches the 5th floor. Fair enough? Give your message. What is the outcome are you looking for? The outcome you're looking for is when he steps out of that lift, he or she, right? Steps out of that lift. You want them to turn around. You have a brilliant idea. Here is my card. Reach out to me later. Okay. Now, how many of you think that elevator pitches are successful? What are you going to focus on in here? Do you win them or you lose them? What could be one reason why many people lose it?
It's the way you say it.
I'm sure all of you have got an answer. I'm sure all of you have heard enough. I'm sure all of you know what matters, right? It is also the message. I think it's very critical. Yes, content is important. But since you have got to kind of crash everything into that point in time, and you focused on all your content, but you've not focused on yourself, you're not focused on your voice. And if you carry your same current beautiful voice, you know what I'm saying, right? I'm just being polite. Here is an opportunity, folks, for all of you to kind of go ahead and change. if you get a few seconds and you want to go ahead and influence somebody, it just make the right sounds, make your voice count. Let them feel what you're saying, right? And only if they feel what you're saying will it start resonating. So I'll close this by just saying something. Voice matters. Make your voice count and change your lives. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. I'm handing this back to Supriya and happy to take some questions. So Supriya, back to you.
Well, thank you, Ravi. Very interesting presentation. It was very different from the way usually the presentations are. You had an interesting mix of video, audio, visual, everything, and of course your voice mattered when you are giving the message. But you know what? Very interesting point you made, and it reminded me of my mentor, late Dr. Matthew. Every time, so he was my, you know him very well, you knew him. So every time I used to, as a student, go into his cabin, he used to say, Supriya, listen to your voice. And he used to make me stand at the other corner of the room and make me practice, give me a page to read, listen to your voice. And I can never forget those words. Whenever, I mean, this is the core message that you have given. And of course, you have packaged it very well for the audience to remember your message in a very impactful way, because what you have demonstrated today through the video, that itself is the message that they will carry. See, we all know this basic thing. We know that the passion that we have, how we present that passion when we are selling our idea. Now, I could be a student who's trying to prove to a recruiter that I'm the best candidate, yes, select me. Or I could be a professional giving my presentation to my team, to my seniors, or I could be an entrepreneur giving an elevator speech. But at the end of the day, you have given a very crucial reminder to all of us that yes, work on the idea, work on the content, but don't forget on how you present it, because your voice matters. So this is how I will remember it. And this is the message that I would like to give to the audience today as a summary of what you said. You actually covered a very interesting example, in fact, of that software where I think you were working for a client where you were developing this speech recognition where you were trying to understand the emotion. So any interesting cases which came up, anything interesting that got revealed, any cases solved?
Oh yeah. You just okay. I'll just kind of keep it brief in here, folks. I think the COVID phase was a very interesting phase, and more than anything else, all of us ended up doing something important, is hearing each other, right? Either most of the time you were listening, right? Because there are few who were speaking. And from what you would have heard today, how attentive were you and how engaged were you, right? When you're speaking. So now just to start looking at a situation from a sales standpoint, if we have people who are out there looking at the situation, right? When they want to go ahead and sell something to someone, the question is, do you have the attention of the person? How do you gain the attention of the person? Correct? How do you figure out what is the mood of the person? I mean, all of us get a lot of these calls. Sir, आप credit card ले लो, आपके लिए गाड़ी का लोन रेडी है, आपके लिए बहुत कुछ, मतलब all of us are so rich, right? I mean, just there's so many people are reaching out and making you offers, right? So unlike you chasing the VC for whatever else that you've got. So what we ended up doing was we went ahead and deployed the software which could listen into conversations, okay? And right from when you're looking at conversations, you have an opening, there's an introduction that really happens, correct? I'm keeping it simple. There's an introduction. There are a few things which are mandatory, which needs to be spoken. There's a few aspects from a validation that needs to be done, right? And then you've got to solicit, build in some sense of urgency, and finally close the call. Now, with technology, what we really could figure out is we could go ahead and take a look at any call and map that call to really figure out what did the person miss out, number one, correct? Two, did he kind of exhibit that sense of urgency? Because end of the day, till you nudge, right, nobody buys, correct? And most of the times you kind of, most of the conversations are lost out there. And you just get that one pass it with a particular customer, unless until they say, call me back, right? And you know how difficult it is to kind of get back out to anybody in here. So what we ended up doing is we figured out and then did the analytics around that. And we saw something very, very interesting, right? That it is different sets of people with different experience bands, right? So you also have freshers in here. You also have got experienced folks in here. You have people who are performers, people who are laggards, everybody else put together. We could start putting up a graph and starting to see some with everybody put. So we started doing comparisons in terms of how does a successful person measure against a fresher versus somebody else. Now that kind of insights is what we could go and show to people from multiple standpoints, right? So one is in terms from an emotional standpoint. I mean, do you exhibit any emotion? Sir, card chahiye kya? I mean, that is one blatant way in which one can go and say that. Or how do you kind of gain the attention of a person and get that going? So a lot of insights. So Supriya, really, if you really start looking at, we could definitely help impact companies to improve their sales, right? Now, the idea really being is from people following a script to seeing how things can become muscle memory over a period of time. A lot of best practices also was captured, or why some people are successful, learn from them and see how that could be shared with the rest of the folks out there. So really, if you're looking at it, just by capturing and listening into voices, if you could do that, you can imagine what, I mean, the kind of insights that we could do, right? I mean, it's still a journey and we keep seeing and doing a lot of things in here today. And very, very exciting times, folks. Very, very exciting times. More than happy to share it maybe in some other session someday, some other day. Hope this given you some sense, because there's lots to talk about on this front.
Yeah, and this has given a lot of ideas also. The like you mentioned, like how, for example, our digital assistants, right? How they have been programmed, how they have picked up. I wonder one day that time how they will keep evolving, because it's an evolving field, and I'm sure the level of sophistication also will keep on improving with time.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So in fact, let me share something very interesting today. From the time that, if you look back about 15, 20 years back, where we had challenges with languages. I think language is not a challenge. Any one of us, when we communicate, we don't speak in one language, right? We use multiple languages, right? When we start speaking. So we have Hindi, we have English, we have English, right? So likewise, if you kind of shift from south, when you go to south, I mean, people very, very easily can start off with English and then get into their own local mother tongues, right? And then if they are in a particular place like a melting pot like Bangalore, they may end up speaking about 3 or 4 languages all put together. So today we have got the technology, the same bit where we can start picking up what are the different languages, but more important is extract what is the message which is being given, right? Now, the whole idea really being is you can also now start picking up emotions from that. So if I can also start picking up emotions and I can pick up the semantic aspects of it and then start correlate and figure out in terms of why things are working and why things are not working, it is a huge value add to businesses today, right?
Yeah. So the power lies not just in making the voice matter, but also in listening to the voices of others and getting the insights from that. See, that's equally important. Going back to the older times when humans didn't have their own language, and as you said, like they probably communicated using sign language, but they were more receptive to the different sounds in their environment. And see how the evolution has happened. It wouldn't have happened if they were not receptive. I mean, it's a very trivial example, but I think it forms the foundational, the fundamental basis of this theory.
So very interesting. Let me share with all of you another important, just another view, another point which all of you may know. I think one of the key catalysts, if you really start looking at, from an Indian IT industry standpoint was when the contact centers or the call centers started off, right? Not only it generated so much of employment all over the place, and then we had accent coaches and we had all kinds of new roles which nobody ever believed in, right? And along with that came a new challenge. So I'm just trying to just put a little math out here for all of you to really start seeing in here, right? Is visualize a company has got 4 contact centers in 4 parts of India. And in each contact center, there are 1,000 people. They do 3 shifts. And in each shift, every caller makes close to about 100, 150 calls. You can understand what will be the math in terms of total number of calls. But let's add a dimension of a quality team, right? They say, well, yeah, we need to have quality and everything else, right? So that's how we score. Now imagine those poor guys who are from quality. Do you believe that they could sit and listen to all these calls to figure out what is right and what's wrong?
Yeah.
So they really ended up today kind of sampling. I mean, they would only sample, and they can only sample nothing more than about 5% to 7% of the calls, right? Which means that you can imagine number of headcount that you need to do that. But today technology starts coming in and we can listen to all the calls and only flag out the calls where you believe there is challenges. You see how the paradigm is shifted in here? We can probably pinpoint to the fact in terms of saying is when the customer got angry, and we can take you to that point in the call and start from that point of what was just said before he got upset or she got upset, or did you say some swear word from your side? Because at the end of about making 150 calls, if it's the last call of the day, a person can also have fatigue, right? Come on यार, ये क्या है, कितना कॉल करवाते हैं मेरे को दिन में यार, इतना नहीं है, यही चलना था कि आधा घंटा, ये क्या तरीका है मतलब. And then you find an irate call which goes for about an hour and a half, right? You know how would you react if your brain is almost like saturated? I mean, all of us are humans. I mean, we do make mistakes and we can call that out, guys. We can call that out.
Yeah. In fact, there's a question which is related to the same area. So would you please give a tip for telecalling, what you found out? So I think you've kind of covered, but if you have any last insight.
What I probably could do is, I mean, so it's very straightforward, right? I mean, we need to start seeing how we can quickly map out your existing process and then put in some best practices. And then start capturing if there are any deviations or what are the deviations out there, and then recommend what are things that can be done, right? And more important, the quality, we give you complete coverage for anything and everything that happens out there. So it's about utilizing technology, right? And then starting to see how you start raising the bar on, so that you start not only improve your sales, not only improve your customer satisfaction, not only improve your quality metrics, and I think it's a holistic view, right? You can raise the bar on anything. All this is starting with a voice. So can be done. I mean, I see Rashmi kind of asking that. Rashmi, more than happy to have a follow-up conversation. Maybe we could take this offline, right? For details.
Thank you so much. Sure.
Great. So I think I don't see anything else in the audience, but thank you so much, Ravi. It was a very, very interesting presentation and a very good reminder to all of us to work on our voice and listen to our voice. And thank you so much on behalf of BMA and the executive committee and all those who are attending here. We thank you very much for taking our time and presenting to us. And what we'll do is, Rashmi will share the contact details of Mr. Ravi with you, and you can connect with him offline. Andrila, if you could please share the contact details separately.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Sure. In fact, so Supriya, this one is for you, right? So the next time I hear you, are you going to sound different?
I'll definitely try. And trust me, I do keep trying. I've also come a long way listening to my voice. But yes, and always whenever I interact with you, you anyway have this, as I said, contagious enthusiasm, which gives a lot of energy around. So yes,
Thank you.
you'll definitely see some improvement.
All right. So I really need to kind of put on the meter out here to check out, right? What on the graph has changed, right? I think that's what really is going to matter. But more than happy if there's anyone from a member group who wants to kind of reach out and speak. So I kind of kept the session very simple today, didn't get into too much of technicalities. And stuff. When one talks about from a voice standpoint, there's lots that one can do. But we can definitely discuss that out. But I'm working on myself and helping a few folks as well as required, right? So whoever needs help, I'm more than happy to speak to them and figure out what works for them and basically help people out there. So that's what it's called. So brilliant, folks. I mean, thank you again to BMA and to all of you for staying back. And I can see that people have been consistent out there, right? So I hope my voice mattered today and
It did. I'm
you
sure.
have something to take away from here. So keep working on yourself. There's nothing better than that. And do reach out. More than happy to kind of share feedback and share a few more tips in terms of what you folks can do, right? All right, Supriya. So see you
Okay.
folks.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so
Bye all.
much. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye. Enjoy your weekend, folks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye all.
The session was worth learning. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mohammad.
Andrila, you there?
Yes, ma'am. Should I end the session?
Yes, please.
Yeah.